I told her I forgave her. Those words left my mouth softer than I expected, almost like they belonged to someone else. Forgiveness sounds clean, doesn't it? Like it can wipe away what's broken. But what happens when the heart forgives and the soul can't forget? Ethan stood in the ruins of what used to be a marriage, staring at Lily, the woman who once made him believe in forever. The air between them was heavy with unspoken guilt. And in the quiet hum of the city night, forgiveness became a weapon sharper than revenge. Have you ever loved someone so deeply that the moment they shattered you, you still wanted to hold the pieces for them? Ethan didn't want her to hurt. Not yet. He wanted her to understand. And understanding, he knew, could be far crueler than punishment. The next morning, Ethan didn't sleep. The city was quieter than usual, and his apartment felt too clean, too empty, like someone had pressed mute on his life. Forgiveness had changed the air between them, but not the ache in his chest. He stared at the coffee machine, sputtering, thinking about how silence could be both peaceful and punishing. In forgiving her, he had set her free. But freedom, he knew, often came with a price. Wait. Lily sat in her car outside his building, her breath fogging up the window. She replayed every word he said, especially the calm in his voice when he forgave her. That calm wasn't peace, it was distance. And distance, she realized, was the one thing she could never bridge again. Later that day, Ethan found the courage to open the box beneath his bed, the one filled with remnants of their years together. Photos, letters, and the perfume bottle she left behind. He didn't cry. Instead, he smiled, realizing that pain could turn strangely gentle once it stopped surprising you. That night, he stood by the window, watching the rain fall again. Somewhere across the city, Lily might have been doing the same. Forgiveness, he thought, isn't about who deserves peace. It's about who needs it to survive. But as he turned away from the glass, he felt something new rising inside him. Not bitterness, not sorrow, but the quiet thrill of taking back his power. The next morning broke like a whisper. Gray clouds smeared across the sky, the city soaked in leftover rain. Ethan felt oddly calm, almost purposeful. Forgiveness had been his first act. What came next would be his truth. He didn't want revenge. That would make him small. He wanted reflection, to make Lily see herself through the eyes she'd wounded. There's a quiet kind of justice in showing someone the mirror they've avoided all their life. He opened his laptop and began typing. Every word aimed not to hurt, but to reveal. Sometimes, honesty is the cruelest kindness. Lily opened her email to find a message from him. The subject line read only one word: truth. She hesitated before clicking, her heart hammering as though she already knew what waited inside. Ethan hadn't written hate or accusation. He had written memory. Every paragraph held a mirror to the choices she made, the love she lost, and the pain she left behind. By the time she finished, tears blurred the screen. He hadn't told her she was cruel. He had simply reminded her of the moments she forgot how to love. That evening, Ethan walked through Pike Place Market, his phone buzzing with Lily's calls. He didn't answer. The world around him smelled of coffee and sea salt. People laughed, vendors shouted, life went on. For the first time in months, he felt small in a good way. Like part of the world again, not trapped in the echo of one failed love. Forgiveness, he realized, wasn't about setting her free. It was about setting himself free from her gravity. Nor would you remain sure for Mary. Lily sat alone that night, replaying old voicemails he'd left, his laughter, his small talk, his warmth. Each sound cut deeper than anger ever could. She began writing back, but stopped after the first sentence. I didn't mean to lose you. Her hand froze above the keyboard, knowing that words couldn't undo what silence had already decided. Late that night, Ethan wrote one final message. Not to her, but to himself. A simple note saved in drafts. You did the right thing. He didn't send it, didn't need to. He turned off the laptop, walked to the balcony, and breathed in the cool scent of rain. Somewhere out there, she was learning what regret really meant. Not through punishment, but through absence. And Ethan finally felt what peace truly sounded like. Silence without pain. Regret doesn't come all at once. It creeps in slowly, like light leaking through a crack you tried to seal. Lily began to feel it in the quiet moments when her phone stayed still too long, or when her laughter echoed too loudly. She remembered the way Ethan used to really listen like her words meant something. Now her reflection in the mirror stared back with a question she couldn't answer. When did love turn into convenience? She didn't miss being loved. She missed being known. And that realization hurt more than the loss itself. Ethan spent the afternoon at a small cafe he used to visit with Lily. Same corner seat, same chipped mug, but this time the silence felt like company instead of loneliness. He looked out the window at passing strangers and realized how easily life kept moving, how little the world cared about heartbreak. And maybe that was the lesson, not to be hardened by loss, but humbled by it. That evening, Lily visited the park where they first met. The air was crisp, the sky painted pink and gray. She sat on the same bench, running her fingers along the wooden slats as if they could still remember him. The city's noise faded behind her, leaving only the rustle of leaves and the faint hum of regret. She whispered his name once, just to see if it still felt like hers to say. It didn't. Ethan's phone lit up with her name again. He stared at it, thumb hovering over the screen, then let it ring out. Some calls don't need to be answered. They're echoes, not invitations. He smiled faintly. Not out of pride, but peace. He had nothing left to prove, nothing left to say. He had already said everything that mattered when he chose to forgive her. Later that night, Lily finally sent a message. I understand now. No explanations, no excuses. Just 4 words that carried the weight of everything unspoken between them. Ethan read it, then locked his phone and set it down beside the window. Outside, rain began to fall again, soft and rhythmic. He smiled gently, whispering to himself, "Good." And as the rain traced paths down the glass, it felt less like sorrow and more like release. Days turned into weeks, and silence became their new language. But silence has a way of echoing back what we try to bury. Lily began to see him everywhere. Not literally, but in the places where love once lived. The cafe table with 2 empty chairs. The bookstore corner where they argued over endings. Regret wasn't loud anymore. It was steady, patient, waiting for her to face herself. She didn't want him back. She wanted forgiveness from herself this time. Ethan started running again. Each morning before dawn, he laced his shoes and chased the city's quiet streets. With every step, the weight on his chest loosened. The rhythm of his breath, the chill of the wind. It was like reclaiming parts of himself he didn't know he'd lost. Healing, he realized, wasn't a destination. It was a movement. Forward. One breath at a time. Lily found an old photo of them at a beach. The one where the sky turned violet just before the storm hit. For the first time, she didn't cry. She smiled. The love was real, even if it didn't last. And maybe that was enough. Some stories aren't meant to be rewritten. They're meant to be remembered gently, like songs that end too. Ethan met someone new. Not a lover, not yet, but a conversation that didn't feel heavy. Her name was Claire. She talked about music, about places she wanted to visit, and she didn't ask about his past. It felt strange, this lightness. He caught himself smiling, realizing he wasn't replacing Lily. He was rediscovering himself through someone who didn't need to fix him. That night, Lily wrote in her journal for the first time in months, "I forgive myself." The words looked strange on the page, almost too fragile to belong to her. But as she traced the ink with her fingertips, she felt something stir. A small, unfamiliar peace. Across the city, Ethan stood by his window, looking out at the same skyline, breathing the same cool night air. Different hearts, same sky. Forgiveness had come full circle. Love doesn't always arrive as thunder. It sometimes comes as a quiet knock, hesitant but true. For Ethan, that knock came in the shape of laughter shared over coffee, the kind that didn't feel borrowed from the past. Claire wasn't trying to heal him. She was simply there, asking nothing, giving warmth without demand. For the first time in years, he didn't compare. He just felt. And it was enough. Lily saw them by accident. A friend's photo online, Ethan laughing beside another woman. The image hit her chest like a soft punch. Not because she wanted him back, but because he looked free, happy. She stared at the screen for a long time, her reflection faintly visible on the glass, realizing that regret isn't about losing someone. It's about realizing how much of yourself you gave away trying to be forgiven. Ethan and Claire walked by the waterfront that evening. The sky streaked in fading violet. Claire talked about constellations and how people name stars to make sense of distance. He smiled at that. Maybe that's what forgiveness was too, naming the spaces between what hurt and what healed. He didn't look back anymore. He had learned that love, when real, doesn't need to erase the past. It transforms it. Lily started volunteering at a local shelter, a small act that felt like breathing again. Every person she helped reminded her that healing isn't found in apology but in kindness. She wasn't the same woman who broke someone's heart. She was learning to build again, slowly, quietly. She no longer looked for Ethan in the faces of strangers. She looked for herself. One night, by chance, Ethan and Lily crossed paths again, outside the same bookstore where their story once began. No words, just a shared glance. It wasn't bitter or nostalgic, it was peaceful. A quiet acknowledgement that some endings are really beginnings in disguise. They smiled, nodded, and kept walking opposite directions, each carrying the calm only truth can bring. Ethan woke before dawn, the sky still half asleep. He stood by his window, watching the city stretch and yawn beneath the soft blush of morning. For the first time in years, he felt no weight on his chest. Forgiveness had worked its quiet magic, not as a gift to Lily, but as freedom for himself. He brewed coffee, humming softly, thinking about how peace never arrives all at once. It sneaks in through the cracks you once tried to seal. Claire watched him from the kitchen doorway, smiling to herself. She didn't ask about his past anymore. She didn't need to. Every time he reached for her hand without hesitation, she saw it. The proof of someone who had learned how to stay without holding too tight. In her quiet company, Ethan found something sacred. A love that didn't demand healing, only honesty. Across the city, Lily was finally at peace with her solitude. She had learned to sit with silence without mistaking it for emptiness. On weekends, she painted by her window, colors spilling like fragments of thought she never shared. She no longer chased closure. It had already found her the moment she stopped searching for it. One afternoon, Ethan received a letter. Not an email, not a text. A real letter, sealed in soft cream paper. It was from Lily. Only 2 lines. "Thank you for teaching me what forgiveness really means. I hope life is kind to you." He read it once, then tucked it between the pages of a book they once loved. No tears, no ache, just warmth. The kind that comes when you know a story has truly ended. That evening, Lily closed her own journal after writing her last entry. "It's strange how losing love taught me to love myself." She smiled as the last light of day touched her face. Across the city, Ethan and Claire laughed together in their kitchen, unaware that somewhere out there, a woman who once broke his heart was finally whole again. And maybe that's how healing really works. Quietly, separately, beautifully. Years passed. Not many, but enough to turn wounds into whispers. Ethan found himself walking through the same park one autumn evening, leaves swirling like fragments of old promises. He wasn't chasing memories, he was just passing through. But sometimes life brings you full circle without asking. As he sat on a familiar bench, a thought crossed his mind. He didn't regret forgiving her. He was grateful for the lesson it carried. Love can end and still be beautiful. On the other side of town, Lily walked through a small gallery she'd helped open. Her paintings lined the walls. Soft oceans, muted skies, still moments turned to color. People moved slowly around her work, whispering admiration. She didn't seek attention, she sought truth. And when she saw one of her pieces titled "The Puddle," she smiled, remembering the night he dropped the ring. That pain had become art. That goodbye had become her beginning. That night, as the city hummed beneath a low silver moon, Ethan and Claire walked past that very gallery. Claire stopped, admiring the painting in the window. Ethan froze for just a heartbeat, recognizing the brushstrokes, the texture, the emotion buried in the color. "It's beautiful," Claire whispered. He nodded. "Yeah, it really is." He didn't tell her who painted it. Some stories live better in silence. Lily locked the gallery after everyone left and stepped outside. The street shimmered under the drizzle. Across the road, she saw a couple standing by the window. She couldn't see their faces clearly, only their outline against the light. Something about their stillness made her pause. For a moment, she thought of Ethan. Then, as the couple walked away hand in hand, she whispered a quiet blessing to the night. "Be happy," she said. And she meant it. Later, Ethan placed his hand in Claire's as they crossed the street, the rain soft and forgiving. In another part of the city, Lily watched the last lights fade from her gallery window. Neither knew the other had been there. And maybe that was perfect. Some souls don't need reunion. They just need closure. As the rain washed over the city, it carried their story into quiet completion. Forgiveness had come full circle. Not as a moment, but as a life lived gently afterward.